Hello, welcome back to the Saba show, and today I'm going to be doing sort of AFL season predictions. I'm sort of going to be commenting on what I've seen a lot about other people's predictions, and basically just give my take on them. Obviously, I know predictions are, good fun to do. Basically, figuring out the hypothetical ladder and all that good stuff. But there is a few things that I want to comment about and basically rant about in this video. Now, first and foremost, I'm going to talk about my team, Carlton, who is in the news a lot. And obviously, there's been a lot of talk in the AFL community on YouTube and whatnot about where Carlton are going to finish. And a lot of people are saying Carlton are going to finish in the bottom 8. A lot of people don't have faith in Carlton making finals. And look, I can actually understand why you'd say no, because, well, the primary excuse that a lot of people use is basically they get this, hype every single year and don't deliver, alongside the inconsistency factor. And to an extent, I agree with this, because obviously, as a Carlton fan myself, this is why I check my expectations just a little bit, because I know if I get too excited, if I set a really high bar, we aren't doing any damage. And also, I can understand, thinking that Carlton won't make finals, because, at the end of the day, there is a lot of good teams, and there are some teams better than Carlton and have proven to be more consistent over the years. But here is where I see the flaws with the Carlton argument. To say that they aren't making finals because they haven't made it every other year is a terrible argument. And obviously, as I said, I know predictions are good fun, but here is the reason why I just think it's a dumb argument, and I see it all over the place, littered everywhere. I've seen quite a few comparisons, or, well, a team I like to compare Carlton with is Fremantle, and a lot of people are saying Fremantle are making finals this season. Now, I actually back that opinion, because Fremantle, they have a couple, up-and-coming stars. They did, get some good acquisitions. Their draft haul was really good. But in saying that, they have the exact same inconsistency as we do. They've been out of finals for quite a few years now. Some players in their team are on the decline. Some players can't even get on the park. And I can apply this exact same argument that we're inconsistent every year to Fremantle and say, well, they get injured every year. I mean, their injury list is always so long. And at full strength, they could be very dangerous, and they could, make the second week of the finals or something, as a maximum goal for this year. But when I put those two lists side by side, Fremantle and Carlton, I think our list is better. And I mean, a lot of predictions has to do with looking on paper and seeing what they've achieved and looking at past form. But I think you also have to look forward to the future. Carlton has changed significantly from last year. It has a different vibe, a different ring to it from previous seasons. We've had a major overhaul internally. We've got a new coach that has a new philosophy, and I think his players, will be willing to buy into that. We've had some new acquisitions that, I think will, release the strain from, the likes of Sam Walsh and Paddy Cripps. I want to see Harry and Charlie get out on the park at the same time. And obviously that's a question mark as well. There's a lot of question marks surrounding Carlton, and that's why a lot of people say Carlton aren't making finals, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do make finals. But look, I think it's positive. Obviously there was a game against Melbourne, a few days ago, and it's very easy to, overthink it and say, well, we beat Melbourne, so, we're going to be good. But it looked really positive. I mean, we had plus 23 on clearances, had more footy, kicked 10 goals in a half. I mean, mind you, half of those were from 50-metre penalties. But in the second half, we kicked 5 goals without a target up forward. So I see that as a positive. There's, some small forwards that are filtering through for Carlton that also could be very dangerous. And look, I think we have all the pieces to make finals this year. If we don't make finals, I guess you could say it's a fail, but I'm willing to say that if, for our season to be a success, I'm going to have a look at our win-loss record and not our ladder position. If we end up 11-11 and don't make finals, or 12-10 and don't make finals, I'm going to be pretty happy with the result. But obviously, you know, the ultimate goal is to make finals and have a cheeky shot at, you know, a premiership. But obviously, we're not at that point yet. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to be like, flaggers 2022, because I know that's not going to happen. I probably know we're not going to make top 4. We're not that good yet. But if I set a goal for like 12-10, 13-9, you know, it still allows a bit of room for inconsistency and for you to lose to some really good opposition. But I just think our list is good enough to contend now. We've, you know, Chera and Hewitt were excellent in the practice match. Kennedy is a fill-in piece. He can play. He does his job. You know, he is prone to going back down to the resi some weeks if he has a bad game, but when he's in this, you know, the best 22 and he performs, he's very good. I think it's just about filtering out the bad players or the really inconsistent players. And look, that's why I see comparisons to Freo, because, you know, Freo have their centerpiece in Andy Brayshaw, and Carlton have their centerpiece in Sammy Walsh. But I don't see like a focal point in Fremantle's forward line and back line like I see it with Carlton. I see Wiedering and Harry. Those are the faces of the back line and the forward line. For Fremantle, who could you really say it is? I mean, Walters has been good for a number of years, but, you know, he can't stay on the park, or at least he didn't last year. He could have a, you know, redemption year. In the back line, I don't know. There's a lot of solid players there. Brennan Cox, Griffin Logue, Joel Hamling's coming back. In the forward line, Taberner and Lobb are just inconsistent as hell. You've got some good pieces in Switkowski and Schultz, but when I see those guys and I compare them to Carlton's list, you know, I don't really understand why people are seeing Fremantle to take the jump instead of Carlton. I'm happy if both of them make the jump, but I also don't understand why, you know, we're only going for one, because I think they're very similar in a lot of ways, and if anything, Carlton has a better list. You know, the past seasons are irrelevant, I think. We look at some other, you know, popular opinions, and some people are saying Richmond aren't going to make the finals, and I just say to them, well, you're forgetting that this Richmond team, well, you know, they've had a bit of turnover. They've lost a couple players over the last couple of years due to retirement and whatnot. You know, Hooley and Asprey are two big outs that were key to their success, you know, that three-peat. So those two obviously are going to be big losses, but I think Gibcus, who is the number 1 draftee for Richmond this year or last year, I think he will fill the void. Robbie Tarrant's coming through as well. You know, Robbie Tarrant's a very good footballer, and I think people have forgotten about that, given he was at a pretty bad North Melbourne side. So I don't really understand. I mean, you're getting Dusty back. You're getting a lot of your players back. Last year, they had an opportunity to run the kids out for basically, you know, 8 or 9 weeks when Dusty went out, and you know, thrown in the towel for the season. And I think a few of these guys could come out and emerge as some really good role players for Richmond. And that's ultimately what got them so successful. That's why the D's are successful, you know, finding these key pieces, exposing them to AFL footy, and then them being able to play a role, you know, in some big moments. So that's another thing. Some people are saying Sydney are going to make the jump to, you know, the top 2, top 3. I don't see it yet, because obviously it's very easy to get carried away, because Sydney was so low 2 years ago. They were like 13th or something. They actually performed really well, given, you know, they were exposing a lot of young players to the system. And then they made that jump last year. You know, they were in the top 4 for quite a long time, ended up 6th and bowed out first week of the finals to GWS. But I think they can go better. I think they can make top 4, but I'm not ready to put them in that upper echelon of teams yet, because, you know, they've still got young players that they're probably going to give game time. They are capable. Obviously, we saw Errol Golden last year, or Goulden. Braden Campbell got a little bit of exposure as well. Logan McDonald's very solid. But still, I'm not ready to make, put them in that upper category, because these guys are prone to mistakes. There are some Sydney players past their prime, although Luke Parker is one player that's criminally underrated, and constantly is forgotten about, especially in something like a Brownlow count. So I think they'll still be good, but I'm not ready to put them in the upper echelon because of the quality of teams that were above them last year. I don't think they've dropped off, or really any one of them except maybe Geelong. And speaking of Geelong, I do agree with the common opinion that some people think they're going to drop off to like 5th or 6th. I think so. I think they are on the downward spiral. Not really a spiral. They're only going down a few places. I mean, a downward spiral would see them out of the 8. And, that could be possible. But I think there's just way too many quality on that team right now. I don't think age is going to catch up with a lot of them until probably next year. A lot of them have gone into their 30s, and a lot of them are integral pieces to, Geelong's success. It is absolutely amazing how they haven't won a flag in a decade or so, with the players they've had filtering through that system for years. But yeah, I think Father Time is on their side for possibly one more season, but I think they're not going to be having any real hope of winning a flag for season 2022. Other intriguing stories involve North Melbourne, I think. North Melbourne have a lot of good players. We saw glimpses last season of what these guys can do. It obviously took a long time for it to happen. North had a very slow start to the year, but Stevenson, Davies, Uniacke, obviously Horne-Francis coming through. That is a very good core. Taron Thomas as well is underrated around the league. Those players are guns. Larkey and Zohar as well up forward. Their backline has a few more unknowns, but Ben Mackay's been pretty good down there last couple of years, even though North have been fairly trash. But I think they could possibly make a little bit of a rise up this year. Gold Coast are another team that I just have no clue what's going on with them. There are a lot of teams that are in that weird phase. Essendon could finish in a variety of positions, both outside and inside of the top 8. Hawthorn also have some nice young pieces, and they're much similar to North in the sense that they picked up the pace at the end of last year and possibly could build on that momentum going into the new year with, a lot of draft picks that they ended up getting. And West Coast are a team that are absolutely injury depleted, and you can definitely see them finishing in the bottom 6 this year. But I also, back some players. I mean, West Coast have had a good system. They obviously won that 2018 flag. They are probably going down as well. Obviously didn't make finals last year as well, which would have been a major disappointment around the organization. But it's going to be very difficult to see them in the top 8 once again after a year's absence because of all these injuries. And we haven't even hit round 1 yet. They've got like a dozen players out, and a lot of them, would slot into their best 22, no question. So it's a big problem for West Coast. It's like an epidemic. It happened last year as well. And a lot of players, I mean, they're spending more time on the sidelines in their prime than a lot of other players, and ideally you don't want that to happen. You want these guys to be on the park playing their best footy when they're in their prime, not sitting on the side and spending all their time doing recovery. So for West Coast, I mean, some players are, hitting their mid-30s and won't really see, another opportunity to win a flag. Sure, they had that opportunity a couple of years ago, but I think those people that, perhaps missed out on the 2018 flag, if they've just broken into the side now or will break into the side because of injuries, you're probably going to be competing for nothing more than a 9th placed finish. That's my rant from me. I don't know how much of this was valid, but if you did enjoy, drop a like and subscribe to the show. We're doing plenty of AFL content this season. Share your thoughts about what you thought of what I said, what your opinions are just generally speaking on the topics I mentioned in the comments below. But that's going to be it. So thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.